Welcome to Get After It with Nashy, brought to you by Ace Property Management and Sales.
Yeah, and obviously yours is it's so interesting. It is well documented, but I've just followed you for a long time, and as I build this show and reach out to different people and introductions come along, it's getting opportunities like this for me personally are I sometimes can't believe the people I get to speak to, yourself included. But I just want to sort of put a shout out there, as I always do, to the introduction to Dean Stott. You've been doing a bit of training with Dean over in LA and things like that. How's it been hanging around in LA with Dean and getting after it?
Mate, I haven't actually seen that much of him. We got into Gold's, the Mecca down at Venice, and got to work out in.
Yeah.
He loves a chinwag though, old Dean. So it's like, we working out or we hanging out? But yeah, he's got some great stories. That's the thing. Like, you don't mind listening to him because his stories are so freaking epic. It's hard to concentrate on the workout. We grabbed some breakfast, but he's diddy bopping all over the place with all of his projects and his books and stuff. So and he's down in Orange County as well. So, you know, depending on LA traffic, that's anything from 45 minutes to 16-hour drive. So we haven't had a chance to catch up for a while. I just saw he was out, I think, in Texas working with Mike Sorelli, who runs the Talent War Group, but he's like a business partner or ex-business partner with Jocko.
Yeah.
So they're doing big things in the leadership realm as well together. So it's good to see.
No, it's awesome. I had Mike on the podcast, and just guys like that and the military background. It's something that I've not got a military background, very much worked, you know, being a working guy, father of three, but now getting into a world of speaking to inspirational people and getting the sort of the best advice, the motivational tips, all these sorts of things, but just the true sort of the real stories from people that have really lived. You know, in yourself, the way that your story's unfolded, but quite exciting to see that your new book's out, Uncaged.
Yeah. Oh, give me 1 sec. I got the boxes. I just got home like 30 minutes ago from a weekend away, and the boxes turned up while I was away. So I've got like 14 boxes of books sitting at the front door. Give me a second. I'll just grab one.
Cool.
The delivery guy was nice enough to put them all right in front of the door, blocking me from getting in this morning.
Was that last weekend as big as the one you had the previous weekend? Remember that email?
No. Yeah, no, last weekend was a blowout. I'm not doing that again for a while. This is just hanging out.
I enjoyed
hanging out down in oh my God. I did not. It took me till Thursday to come good. Yeah, we got the new book.
Oh yes.
This is the first copy I've ever actually seen and touched, so it's looking pretty good. I don't mind it at all.
It's looking awesome. And that little quote on the front from a certain Mike Tyson, how did that come around?
Yeah. The pictures aren't very good, though. A little grainy. So I worked with Mike on a show for Shark Week, and I don't particularly enjoy doing the babysitting shows where I have to take celebrities out and teach them how to do stuff. The first couple of times was really cool because it was like Ronda Rousey, you know, she's a freaking champion. And her and her husband became good friends because of that. And the second time was Will Smith. So you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is all right. But then you start doing it more and more. And it's like, I didn't want to do Shark Week to hang out with celebrities and babysit them. I wanted to do Shark Week to teach people about sharks and, you know, learn stuff myself and have some exciting times. So the last couple I've done, David Dobrik, nice guy, didn't really enjoy the shoot that much. Robert Irwin, incredible guy, love their family. I've worked with the Irwins for years. Didn't really need to be there though, to be honest. He's such a good character. He's got such a big personality.
They know what they're doing
himself.
They know what they're doing around the animals. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I told the bosses at Discovery Channel that, and they're like, oh, all right, well, we've got one. Do you want to do it? I'm like, all right, who is it? And like Mike Tyson. I go, oh yeah, I'll do that one. Hell yeah, I'll do that one. You know, I grew up in the age of Mike Tyson when he was the heavyweight champ, and you know, we all, me and my buddies would all get together and watch Mike fight, and it was just so epic. And to get to hang out with him and see how terrible a diver he truly is, and diving with him, like, and I'm just talking about in the pool. Like, he wasn't even kicking his legs to go from one end to the other. He was like bear crawling. And I'm just thinking, this is going to be a nightmare. And they said I wasn't going to be diving much because I was going to be the voice, talking to the audience while watching the video of what Mike's doing on the bottom. And I was pretty pissed about that. I'm thinking, you're going to take me to to Bahamas, one of my favorite places to dive, like tiger sharks, crystal clear water, and you're not going to let me dive. And then I saw him in the pool and I thought, thank God I'm not diving with this train wreck because he's going to get killed. And then we got there and he was so bad. They're like, Paul, you're on every dive. You're going to be in the water with him every time. You've got to guide him. You've got to keep him safe. And I'm just thinking, fuck, this is so bad. And he threw up before or after every dive. Like, he'd get out of the water, take his mask off and just projectile vomit all over the back of the boat because he was so scared. But he would get underwater and he would grab or hug or like push every animal that came near him. And I was just like, God damn it, Mike, I can't put this on a show. You're making me look bad.
Did he knock any sharks out? Did he knock any of them out?
No, they're very, very strong animals. But that quote came about, it wasn't even a quote. It was just something that he said to my friend on that shoot. So my friend Brad works with him and trains him and keeps his body moving with these electrical impulse things that he puts all over him. And it was just something he said to Brad was like, I'm scared of that guy because I can see in his eyes he has no fear. He's a crazy motherfucker. And I was like, that's a great quote for the book. So I got approval to use that. And he was like, yeah, no dramas. So pretty awesome. I did ask Will Smith's team because he said on a show that I did with him, he called me a superhero. And I was like, that'd be an awesome quote for the book too. So I asked his team and they're like, oh, no, we can't approve that because we got a book coming out and this and that. And I was like, all right, fine. No Will Smith, I'll use Mike.
Yeah, I mean, they're just two sort of huge names. Are you quite comfortable now in their presence? Because throw it back to the young soldier, Paul. Would you have been comfortable meeting Mike Tyson and the world that you've found yourself in now? Are you comfortable in sort of that environment, speaking to these people that you've watched for years?
I think as a younger person, probably not. I would have been very nervous and very quiet. But now I don't know, like they're just human beings. They're just people. And to be honest, they're in my realm. If I was on a movie set with them, I would probably shut the hell up and just listen and be very nervous. But because they're in my world and I'm the one keeping them safe and I know all the answers and have all the information, I feel quite confident in speaking to them as just a normal human being. And they seem usually quite intent to just listen as well. So yeah, it doesn't really worry me. My mum makes a joke that I could run into a famous person on the street and I wouldn't even know who they are. So I don't really get wrapped around the axles too much about celebrities. I think that's why they keep giving me the celebrity shows.
Robert Irwin, though, and his dad obviously so famous and such a great loss. What was that like? Do you remember the day that we all got the news?
I don't remember the day, actually, but I do remember the news. That was just heartbreaking. And I've been fortunate enough I never met Steve, but I've been working with the Irwins for probably 6 or 7 years. I've been a global ambassador for their Wildlife Warriors for a long time. And I actually got to host the Steve Irwin Gala dinner twice, once in Brisbane and then once in LA. So just to be a part of the amazing work that they do is pretty humbling in and of itself. So just a wonderful family. And you see them on TV and they seem a little bit over the top, kind of like Steve was. And you see Bindi and Robert and they're so animated and you think, oh, it's a bit of a show there. But to be honest, that is them 100% of the time. That is just who they are. They are that nice. They are that excited about what they do and the animals and the planet. And so it's very infectious to be around them. You end up getting very excited about things just by hanging out with them.
I saw, was it Robert years ago was he on with Jimmy Fallon, I think. And
he's been on a few times, actually.
He took the animals on. And I mean, it was just his dad reincarnated. You know, he seems to just be as sort of as loud, as wild, as passionate as his dad. Is that in real life? Is he just like that constantly?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know where he gets the energy from. I guess it's because he's, I don't know, still 17 and full of vigor. But yeah, that's just how they are. They're just very lovely, very animated, full of energy, full of passion. It really is a credit to how Terry has been able to raise these kids without Steve being around. She's done such an incredible job.
Yeah, and you mentioned what they're doing for the environment. I mean, even here just now today in BBC News, it's like the headline news: red alert for humanity regarding our environment and what we're doing. You're so active in that world at the moment. What do you think we're doing? How are we going to get on with the sort of the years to come if we don't start changing things?
Yeah. Like, you just take a look around the world at the moment with all the fires and the flooding and the coral bleaching and the oceans rising, starting to wipe out islands and stuff. And we're on a one-way path to just destruction and destroying our home. And the only way that, you know, there's two things that can be done. The masters of industries need to change. We need to stop burning all the fossil fuels and go to renewable and sustainable resources, which I just don't see happening fast enough. Like, there are places around the world that are doing incredible things, cities that are now being powered solely by renewable resources. But I just don't know if we're going to do it fast enough. Like, the human nature is for most of us to be pushed to the brink, and then we'll change. And with all the, you know, disparity between the information, like, you think about the disparity of information between what's going on with COVID. Some people want the vaccine, some people don't. Some people think it's fake. Some people think it's a scam. You know, and then put that on an even bigger scale where it's our home and the duplicity of the information that is funded by research by these same corporations that are destroying the planet, and the scientists that don't have the money and resources to do that sort of study, and all the information coming together, creating this big muddled ball where no one knows what the hell we're supposed to do. So unless the masters of industry start changing their ways, and honestly, everyone, like, just the little things that the normal person can do on a consistent basis, I think that is one of the big changes as well. Look at what, you know, people 5 years ago would have thought that the vegan movement, the plant-based movement, the plant-based milk movement was just this fringe sort of thing going on. Now, whole dairy industries are being shut down because no one wants to have, one, the health repercussions of drinking another animal's secretions, and two, no one, like, the world has been woken up to the horrors of the dairy industry. You know, cows being raped and fisted and inseminated and kept in pens, and their children taken away from them to be killed. Now, you know, half the fridges at the supermarket are non-dairy milk.
Yeah, it's changed days, isn't it? Things are definitely changing in that regard with the food bit.
So, yeah, the small things that the normal person does on a consistent basis regularly, if the more and more people that do it, the more things change. So we can't rely on these masters of industries. We have to take and make the change ourselves.
Did you agree? Obviously, you were in Seaspiracy, and is it Ali, the creator, the director? Was it 2043 that he mentioned as a date that there'll be no fish or no fish in the ocean?
Those numbers, once again, are conflicting with the information that scientist created, that study paper and the research. You know, he came out and said, "Oh, that date's not correct," and then they went back and said it is correct, and now they're saying another date. I actually have a podcast that I do with a freediver and filmmaker, Julia Wheeler, called The Dirt Down Under. And we interviewed Ali Tabrizi, the director of Seaspiracy, to find out, because, you know, that movie came out and there was so much conflicting information, and people came out slamming it, saying this is wrong and that date's wrong, and you didn't focus on this, and why didn't you talk about this? So we were like, yeah, why didn't you? So we had him on the podcast and asked him all those hard questions, and, you know, he had a good answer for everything. Like, there was not one point where it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know where that information came from. I don't know this. He was like, this is it. This is it. This is the information. So that was really good to break down the myths and preconceptions about Seaspiracy.
I listened to it. It was a great interview that you did, and he was very open, wasn't he? And he was just,
Yeah.
I'll speak to anybody, anyone that's criticizing me. I'll come and speak to me. I'm here. And he did. He answered everything so well. And for a 27-year-old guy looking at his 1-year-old boy thinking of the future, like me with my 3 kids, I'm not in that world. I'm not investigating what goes on with sea life and things like that. But my God, it's a worry. It's a real worry. What are our kids going to grow into? What's going to be there for them? And is it going to be...
it absolutely is. I don't even have any kids. I'm worried about the future of my dog.
Well, future of everyone, you know, and I don't think it is publicized enough. These documentaries that come out and people, it goes wild for a while, but we need another one to come quick. You know, we need something else to sort of back it up and the conversation to continue, and then the people in the right positions to make the changes. How did you get involved?
I know.
How did you get involved?
Sorry,
how did you get involved with Seaspiracy? How did that come around?
So one of the producers, like the film company that helped him make it, Films, is headed up by a guy called Kip Anderson. And Kip was the guy that created that movie, What the Health, if you've seen that. It was one of like the first sort of plant-based movement documentaries that came out. He also did Cowspiracy. Was it Cowspiracy? I think it was Cowspiracy. Because he's got the new one coming out soon, Cowspiritual. So I met Kip through a very good friend of mine, John Joseph, who's lead singer of the Cro-Mags, like incredible dude, like 55 or 57, I think. He's still doing Ironmans, been plant-based for a really long time, wrote some incredible books like Meters for Pussies, and his new one out, Unfuck Your Health, is awesome. And he's such a hardcore old school New York dude. He's got this gruff New York voice. So you read his book and you can read it in his voice, which makes it so much better. So him and I created this show together called 30 to Life, where we wanted to help people returning to the real world from long periods in jail as convicts. And so we wanted to help them, you know, not be repeat offenders. We wanted to open up the world of opportunities to them. And so John was friends with Kip. We got Kip on board with his own films to help us film it. And so that's how I met Kip. He knew I was into sharks, obviously, after spending time together. And he's like, Paul, will you do an interview for this new documentary that I'm helping to create called Seaspiracy? And I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. So got together with a couple of dudes just down at Venice Pier, did an hour interview. And that was the last I heard of it for a while. And I totally forgot about it until the documentary came out. And then like it blew up on Netflix. It was so big. And people have been like, people pull me up on the street now. Oh, you're in that movie. Or the funny thing is people like ask me if I've seen it. Like, oh my God, have you seen this movie, Seaspiracy? I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's pretty good, eye-opening. And they're like, oh my God, it made me cry. I've never eaten fish again. Me and my family, no more fish. And I was like, oh, awesome. The message is there then.
Yeah, it's worked. It certainly worked. I mean, it's global. That's the power of Netflix and everything like that. That 30 for 30, did you say? Is that out, or is that coming soon, or have you done that?
It's called 30 to Life.
30 to Life.
Yeah, we finished it about 2 years ago, but because we wanted to, at the end of the documentary, we want to kind of show where those people are a couple of years later. Okay. And so we couldn't release it straight away. So I think it's in final editing processes now, but such a rewarding thing to create and be able to shoot and just see the changes in these individuals from, you know, the oldest guy we had was 72 or 75, I think. Like his mother was a slave. Like the stories this guy has could be a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Like his life was so incredible and he spent so long in jail. And I took him skydiving. And there was only 3 of them out of like the 12 that would even do it. Like the 72-year-old went skydiving with me. And one of the youngest ones as well. Like he was, I think, 28, spent most of his adult life in jail. And afterwards, he walked over to me with tears in his eyes and he broke down in my arms and just said to me, I never thought I could ever do something like that in my life. He hadn't seen the ocean in probably 20 years. So we took him down to Santa Monica and I took them all swimming for the first time. They're just like, to see the light come out of these people's faces after spending so long incarcerated and just, you know, not just experiences, but teaching them real life skills and hopefully giving them the tools to be a part of society and make it a better place as well. So yeah, I'm excited for that to come out. I hope it gets finished soon. I want to see how these guys are doing, because I've only been able to keep in touch with a few of them. So yeah, hopefully it'll be soon.
That's incredible. That's incredible that you do that. And how do you think, obviously you're going to go through the story of the shark attack in a little while, but how do you think your life would have unfolded had the shark attack not happened?
Dude, I don't know. I really loved my job, but I honestly didn't, like when I joined the army, I never saw myself as a career soldier. And even though I loved my job in the Navy, I never really saw myself as a career clearance diver either. So I was just kind of doing what I loved, but also waiting for the next thing to come. So I honestly don't know. This shark attack, while not a blessing, and it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me, the way that I guess I've managed to deal with it has created another whole world of opportunities to give me another path, and potentially the path that I was supposed to be on the whole time. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't even go back, because I don't know who that dude would be, man. I don't know if he'd be happy, if he'd be lost, if, I have no idea. Like, I've lost a bunch of friends to suicide over the last few years. So, could that have happened to me? I don't know. But I know who I am now, and I'm a happy guy. I get to do incredible things. I get to share experiences on stage doing motivational speaking and uplift people, and then share the world of sharks and stand up for these animals that can't stand up for themselves. And I feel enriched and fulfilled through everything that I get to do, and I feel pretty damn blessed as well.
Having followed your story for so long and listened to you on podcasts and watched all your YouTube stuff, there's some really just not weird, but sort of crazy moments that, like, how soon after you were in hospital after the shark attack, did the doctor walk in and you were training? You were sort of working out?
That was 2 days after I'd had my leg chopped off, because the shark didn't take my entire leg. I still had most of it. It just took the whole hamstring. So, instead of just carrying this unfeeling, unmoving lump of wood around with me, we talked about it. I decided to have it cut off. And, after that surgery, I went into 20 hours of agonizing torture. They couldn't get my pain under control. All I could do was roll from side to side in my bed, bawling my eyes out, wishing that I would die. And eventually the pain went away, and that was pretty good. And I was just thinking, what am I going to do now? Okay, funny things happen to your mind when you've got nothing but time and you can't do anything but lay in a bed. And so I decided to ask myself some pretty serious questions, and I needed to feel like I was achieving something, because all I really wanted to do, like the goal I decided was, I need to get back to work, because if I'm not a clearance diver, I don't know who I am. And so I thought, how best can I do that? And I thought, well, I've got to be fit. I've got to be strong. Okay, I better start training. And there was nothing else I could do at that point. So I couldn't even get out of bed. So there was a bar above the bed. And so I started trying to do some one-arm chin-ups on that. And the surgeon walked in and yelled at me. But yeah, I didn't want to lay there with my thoughts too much, because you start thinking too deeply, too hard. And it can take you down some scary paths. And so I just wanted to make some quick, simple decisions to get me on my path back to health and wellness. And that first one was, I got to train. I got to work out. I got to feel like I'm just achieving something. Like, even if it's, just in my mind, I've got to achieve something. Otherwise, I'm just going to be sitting here doing nothing. So yeah, but that created a cascade of events where I'm starting to think outside the box. Right, I can't get out of bed. How am I going to do more exercises than just this one arm pull-up thing? And so we got TheraBands. Everyone's familiar with bands now after being locked in their houses. So we got a bunch of those, tied them to the bars all around my bed, and just started working out like that before I could even stand up. And it's as much a mental therapy as it is a physical therapy to be able to do that. And to this day, my workouts at the gym that's my therapy. I've never done real therapy. We've never really talked about the shark attack or any issues with an actual qualified therapist. I feel like my mates are pretty good at that. Get on the beers and talk shit. So for me, the gym is my therapy.
Is it true that it got so bad that you asked your mum to help you end it? You know, that you kind of took it to that extreme?
Yeah, that was during that 20 hours of just absolute agony. I couldn't do anything to stop the pain. The doctors couldn't give me any more drugs. I was on morphine and ketamine, and I was just in the general area of the hospital. So I wasn't even like in a quiet corner or my own room or anything like that. As soon as I got out of surgery, they put me back into like the general population. So I had this curtain around my bed. Everyone was having visitors. There was a guy in the bed next to me, like sounded like he was dying. And all I had was this curtain to look at. And I was in agony, crying, like literally wishing that the shark had killed me so the pain would stop. I saw the physio walk through the curtains at one point and look at me, and I was just like bawling my eyes out, just rolling from side to side of my bed. And he just closed the curtains, and I never saw him again. And then Mum walked in, and this was like probably hour 17, and I was like, I can't take this anymore. Just go. The hospital's just down the road from an area called King's Cross, where all the strip clubs and the gangsters hang out. And so I just begged her to go and find me a gun so I could kill myself.
Wow. So it was that extreme, the pain, and you got through the next hours and started training, started moving on. What was progression like after? When did the first something happen that made you think this is going to be all right? I'm going to keep going here.
I don't know if I had any of those. I learned a lot about patience and perseverance, two very important P words. Because all through, the Army and the Navy, I was pretty good at everything. I was not very big or strong or anything, but I was, as you Brits would say, wiry. I was very wiry. I could do push-ups forever. I could run and pack march forever. I was good at shooting and all that stuff. And but I expected to be able to do things pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, I just lost my master hand and I just lost my leg. And so I had to learn how to do everything, not just left-handed, but only left-handed, while hopping around. And so there was a lot of deep breathing going on, like what we call combat breathing. Just you feel that anxiety starting to build up in your chest, and you start getting tense and angry, and the cortisol level rises, and you just got to stop. It's going to be all right. Just give it another crack. You'll get there eventually. So that patience and perseverance came into play in a huge way, and still does to this day. 11 years later, you just got to relax and go, it's all right. Give it another go. You'll get there eventually. And that's why, I don't like being helped. And I think a lot of people that are in my situation as well, people like they want to jump in and help us when they see us struggling. It's hard to be polite and say, no, I got it. It's like, sometimes just like, fuck off. Just let me do it, okay? If I don't ever do it, I'm never going to learn how to do it. So, best intentions are great, but you got to let people learn how to do it themselves. And, learning how to write with your left hand. Like, I still hate writing. I can do it. It's neat, but it's so slow. And the concentration that goes into it, and learning how to shoot again, super frustrating, because you can, I can move around a weapon system so easily, and all pistols and rifle, no dramas. Now it's like, I don't know what to do with my hand. And, but it's deep breathing, patience, perseverance, that old military mantra: improvise, adapt, overcome.
Can you take us to the event? Can you take us to February 2009 when it unfolded, when it happened, and how that day went down?
Yeah, well, like it wasn't a special day. It wasn't a special job. It was just early in the morning, overcast in Sydney, on Sydney Harbour, not far from in the little Zodiac, little inflatable boat. We just transited from the dive team under the harbour bridge, past the Opera House, into a famous little bay called Woolloomooloo, where the Navy base is. And I was second in the water. We were doing an exercise whereby the military wanted to test this unmanned video and sonar equipment so they could use it to detect attack swimmers and attack divers coming into, I guess, put bombs on our ships and stuff like that. So we were pretending to be the attack swimmers. And I just pulled out the new guy because he'd been in the water first. He was swimming up and back for about 30 minutes. And I was just like, jump out, mate. And I rolled over, and within a couple of minutes, the water's murky, you can't see through it. And, we've dived here 1,000 times in training exercises, doing maintenance on the warships. So, not by any means anything special. I was literally just swimming on the surface from point A to point B. And within a couple of minutes, just got a massive whack in the back of my leg. Didn't really think too much of it because it didn't hurt, but then I turned around and looked down, and there's this humongous shark's head, like just attached to me. And it's not really something you expect to see.
No.
And I was terrified of sharks. I was so scared of sharks, but I'd literally never even seen a dangerous shark. I'd seen small ones that don't even have teeth, but the first time I see a bull shark and it's decided to eat me. And this is the first shark attack in Sydney Harbour in 60 years. So it's not something that happens. And I tried to fight back. I tried to go for the eye, but it had my hand. I tried to push it off me, but this is what are you guys working meters? This is a 2.7 to 3 meter shark, so like 9 foot long. There's nothing you can do. Like you can't control this wild animal made of muscle. And so it just started shaking me and took me underwater and tearing me apart. And the pain is just something that I can't even explain. Like against your will, having your muscles ripped out of your body and having your hand ripped off at the same time as also being drowned and terrified and sucking in water into your lungs. And like you're so helpless. There's just absolutely nothing you can do except weather the pain. And I just thought I was going to die. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going home today. I'm going to die right now. And you can watch the attack on YouTube. It's actually out into the world. You've probably seen it.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't see much because I don't know, it was 2009. You would have think they'd have better cameras, but it's kind of grainy. It's almost black and white, like blue and black. But you can just see the motion of this animal thrashing me around in the water, taking me under. And eventually, with all the shaking, its teeth sawed all the way through my hamstring and ripped off my right hand and my right hamstring. And my wetsuit made me buoyant. So I popped to the surface. The shark's tail splashed water in my face, kind of shook me back to reality. And I thought, I got to get out of here before it comes back. I didn't know much about sharks. I thought, bull sharks swim in packs. Now I'm going to have blood in the water. All these other sharks are going to come. The thrashing would have attacked them. So I'm going to have like 6 sharks eating me within the next 30 seconds. But what else am I going to do? I got to try and get out of the water. So I'm swimming back to the safety boat while they're coming towards me at the same time with one hand and one functional leg, not going very fast, thinking at any second I'm going to get bitten again and taken underwater and killed. Fortunately, that didn't happen. I don't know why, but the guys in the safety boat got to me first and pulled me out of the water and did first aid and kept me alive until the paramedics arrived.
So did your hamstring and arm get taken off in the same bite? Or do you remember a couple of attacks? One bite? No,
it was just one bite because my hand was by my side.
Okay.
If you can envision me on my back, kicking my legs like that, it came up like this and grabbed my leg and my hand were like side by side. So it grabbed the hand and the hamstring in one go. So that's why I had the rest of my leg for a week. And that's why I had to make that decision to have it chopped off.
And in the water, you're saying there, I mean, can you remember what you were thinking? Did you thought this is it? Did you have that life before your eyes moment and all that sort of thing?
I kind of did, yeah. And people say that time slowed down. I don't think it's slowed down as much as our brains are and our bodies are such incredible machines and tools. The adrenaline spike or whatever just made me think everything in the blink of an eye. And as I was telling myself, you're not going home today, you're going to die right now, another question hit me, am I ready to die? And I did, like, that flashback of who I was as a young kid, getting bullied at school, self-harming. I used to slash my arms up out of frustration and anger, and lack of control over my life, to, flunking out of high school, getting involved in drugs, getting kicked out of home, just being lost, so lost, to what I had achieved as a soldier, as a peacekeeper with the UN, as a elite Navy clearance diver. Like, I did things in my life and achieved things that I never even thought were possible. And so I thought, you know what, I've lived so much more than I thought. If I'm going to die right now, then I'm good with that. I have no regrets. I'm ready to die. And so I just let go. I was just waiting for, to be encompassed by the blackness or go off onto the next journey. And the funny thing that happened after that was I realized that death just isn't scary. Like, it hurt. Like, the journey to death was pretty painful and very scary. But that moment before I thought I was going to die, there was no fear. And I realized that was because I went into it with that answer in my head of, I'm ready to die. I have no regrets. I've lived more than I thought possible. I'm ready to go on to this next journey. Because death isn't scary in itself. Death is just the start of the next adventure. But I can imagine going to your deathbed with missed opportunities, with regrets, with unfinished tasks, and not having truly lived. That would be why death is scary. So I think there's a really good message in that for all of us to go and do all the things that we've dreamed of. Never let anything go unsaid. Tell the people that you love them. I think you'll find that with a lot of military friends. They've learned over time that they don't know if they'll see that friend again. So it might not sound very manly, but we'll tell our friends that we love them. We'll tell our military mates, love you, mate. And so say the things that you want to, but might be too afraid to, or too insecure to, or apologize for things that with family members or friends, and make up and do all the things in your life that you've dreamed of doing, because we don't know when it's going to be over. And like, for me, I want to go to my deathbed feeling exactly the same way. And so that's why I get to live this incredible life, untethered by fear, because I know what's next, and I just want to go into it happy.
Well, you touched on it. You said there, you know what's next in the next adventure. Is that what you think happens in death? You think you get another chance to go again?
I don't know if it's, there's a lot of really good books that I've read about this. One of them is called Many Lives, Many Masters. And it talks about a psychiatrist who's treating this woman, and she, without any prompting in hypnotherapy, she goes into past lives of things that she could never have known. There's so many cultures around the world that speak about it. And, there's so much research into the fact that our soul comes out and goes, the energy goes somewhere. Like, energy can't be dissipated. It always exists. And so I feel firmly in my heart that this is just a step in our journey onto somewhere greater, whether we come back and we have to keep learning things until we progress to the next level of energy and light or frequency or whatever it is. I just know in my heart that this is not the end when we die. It's not just a black pit and you're in a hole and you're in the dirt. That's not it. This is just our vessel. We're far more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
I tend to agree with that. This can't be it. This can't just be all you do and then there's nothingness for the world.
This is just the opportunity for us to learn.
Yeah, and come back stronger, better. What about that journey in the boat when the guys got you out of the water? Do you remember much of that, or were you blacked out, or how did that go?
I blacked out when I pulled me out initially, but then my buddy Tomo, God bless his cotton socks, his medical training came into play, and he started pummeling me in the chest to wake me back up, and that worked. And as long as I could see Tomo and hear his voice, I knew I was alive. So that's all I focused on. Like, I so badly wanted to look at my leg and see what was wrong with it, but my training told me that if it was horrific, I'd probably go into shock and I'd die. So I didn't look at that. I looked at Tomo. I got my priorities in order, and I said, Tomo, can you make sure someone looks after my motorbike? Because that was the biggest thing in my world. I loved my motorbike. I had this beautiful big black RSV Aprilia V-twin. Oh, I love that bike. So make sure someone looks after the bike. He's just like, shut up, Paul, you're dying. Stop cracking jokes. So yeah, I remember most of it. I remember the pain kicking in. I remember the ambulance people coming. I nearly died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital because I'd lost so much blood that I just didn't have the energy to suck air into my lungs. And so they had to coach me through that. You know, one of the guys had to stick his hand inside my leg. Not even one of the paramedics. One of my mates from the dive team had to stick his hand in my leg and pinch closed an artery because the boat was an inch deep in my blood by that point. So if they didn't stop that bleeding, I was dead in minutes.
Your training made you not look at your leg. Had you just been a regular Joe swimming in the harbour, hit by the bull shark the way you were, leg gone, arm gone, do you think your training saved your life without a doubt? Do you think a regular person could have survived it?
I think anything's possible. I don't know. It's hard to say. What I do know is many factors came into play to keep me alive from that medical training, the knowledge of, trying to swim through the water. As soon as I saw my hand was gone, keeping that wound above my heart and swimming back, not knowing that my leg was gushing blood. But also being so highly trained and so incredibly fit. I ran a 65-kilometer race up and down the biggest mountains in Tasmania, and all I did was 2 15-kilometer warm-up runs for it. And I beat everyone on my team just because the training that we go through in clearance divers and my natural physicality from being a swimmer a long time. And my body was used to surviving on lowered amounts of oxygen, I suppose. So that kept me awake, kept me cognizant. And the medical training and my mate's medical training and just being able to, sometimes I think it was because I'm just not that smart either. I don't multitask very well. And so I think that helped because I couldn't focus on not dying. All I got to do is get to the boat. It's all I got to do. Just one thing, Paul. It's like when I'm driving and I'm reading maps and I'm having a conversation on the phone, I would say 80% of the time I take a wrong turn because I can only focus on one thing very well or two things half-assed. So just being able to laser-like focus on one thing. Okay, just get to the boat. Okay, just keep your eyes open. Okay, just breathe. So keeping it very simple, I think that came into play very much so to keep me alive.
Yeah, it's to watch that footage on YouTube and to see you, and I've heard you talk about it before, you felt or you saw one big tail splash by the shark, and you can see that, the big last splash, and then you're on your own.
Yeah, where it's ripped, it's with its mouth, it's ripping the rest of my leg out and using that tail to force its body away from me and just pull the last remnants out of me. Yeah, that stuff hurts, bro. So
how soon after sort of the dust settled, you got through 20 hours, were you back in the water with sharks?
3 months to the day, I went surfing on one leg down at Bondi with 2 of my mates. I used the term surfing loosely because I had this huge board and I'm hopping down through the sand. And because it was one of the first times, it was actually the first time I'd been at the beach. And so the paparazzi were out there and they were all taking photos of me, which was I was very self-conscious about myself and the way that I looked because I'd lost so much weight. I was very pale from being inside a lot of the time. Got one leg and one hand as opposed to being, this super elite fucking fit Navy clearance diver where I could do everything. Now I'm just trying not to fall over. And it was very embarrassing, but I swore to myself that I wouldn't let the things that I was afraid of stop me from doing the things that I love. And being in the ocean was something that I loved. I never really learned to surf. I just wanted to get out there on the board. And so I got out there, I got smashed by the waves for about 45 minutes. Luckily, I'm hard to drown, but just getting out the back finally and having my 2 mates there and sweating and my blood's going and I'm in the sun at Bondi Beach and it's beautiful and I was living. And that was the most important thing. And I was just happy to be out there in the ocean. And even though it was so hard to get to that point out the back, the journey is worth it. You know, we get discouraged a lot of the times when the journey is hard and we think we're not going to be able to achieve our goals. But the elation when we finally do that and looking back on how hard it was almost makes it more rewarding, because we know how much effort we've had to put into it. And so sometimes we've got to not focus on how hard the journey is and think about how incredible it's going to feel when we actually achieve those goals. And so I did that. And then, you know, I think it was like not even a month later, I was in the aquarium for filming 60 Minutes, and they had me in the water with a grey nurse shark.
And what was that like? I mean, you had a fear of sharks before you got eaten by one.
Look, I've watched enough David Attenborough and Steve Irwin to know that grey nurse sharks are like puppy dogs. I knew it was going to bite me, but they do look scary. You know, they got the teeth hanging out of their face, and I every time it swam past me, I had this vision of it turning around and just ripping my whole face off. And so I just looked at the tail, like, it'll be over soon. All right, just look at the tail. The tail doesn't have any teeth. And I was like, oh, look, there's a turtle. Oh, look, there's a stingray. Oh, this is great. No teeth. And then it wasn't until maybe a year and a half later, 2 years later, 60 Minutes came along again, and they wanted me to, they're upping the ante. They're like, all right, now we want him to swim with the sharks that nearly killed him. And they're like, we're going to take you to Fiji and you're going to dive with bull sharks. And I was just like, hell yeah, free trip for me and my girlfriend to Fiji. I'll do whatever you want for this free holiday. So yeah, I did that and got to see these sharks for the incredible animals that they truly are, and not as the terrifying man-eaters that the media would have us think they are. And it wasn't even just bull sharks, bro. This was trial by fire. There was like 50 sharks in there, not just bulls. This is one of the only places in the world you can swim with like 8 different species. So the sharks are literally everywhere. And then there's fish everywhere. And I was playing with a little moray eel, and someone taught me once, if you put something larger than an eel's mouth in front of it, it won't bite you. So I put my fist in front of that eel, and it grabbed me and bit me on the knuckle. And I was like, I heard you can't pull away because they're like so anchored into the rocks, they'll just pull you in and strip all the skin off you. So I'm just sitting there waiting for it to let go, and it finally does, and there's a hole in my knuckle, and I pump it, and all of this green slime starts pumping out of the hole in my hand. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's it injected me with? And then I realized I was 30 meters below the surface, and at that depth there's no red. It was just my blood coming out. So that was the start of the shark diving. I'm like, all right, so anyway, let's go to the sharks to get the eels. And like, we did a bunch of dives. It was so incredible. You know, you didn't feel like threatened in any way. Like, these sharks are just going on with their lives, doing sharky stuff. The islanders were hand feeding them. And I'm just thinking, this is how are you hand feeding a bull shark, one of the most vicious animals in the world, and you're just hand feeding it? And it blew my mind. And we did a bunch of dives, probably about 6, and it was like the last dive of the last day. And all the rest of the crew had gone to the back of the boat, and it was just me, Sam, the cameraman, and Brandon, an ex-South African clearance diver who ran the whole thing. And I looked at him, and then I looked at the metal bucket, the bait box, and my eyebrows raised, and he gave me the nod. And so I reached in. I'm like, I can do this. I had like a mesh glove on, and I pulled it out, and a shark came past. And the first time I tried, I let go a little bit early, and the fish head fell right into Sam, the cameraman's lap. And the bull shark started going straight for his junk. And he's like, oh! He got really pissed off at me. But I gave it another go, hand fed a bull shark, and I've got the footage of it. It swam right past my face, and I put my hand on it, and just such an incredible feeling to slay that demon, so to speak. I think you've probably seen that as well. It's on, I think I've got a video of it on YouTube, amongst a couple of the motivational videos I made.
I've been watching, knowing you were coming on, I've been telling my kids all about you. They've seen you, they know you. I've been watching everything that you've got on YouTube. So, but they're, in their mindset and in their world, they're scared of sharks. So what would you say to kids? What would you say? Because my kids would be here giving you tons of questions just on funny kid questions. But what would you say to kids about sharks?
I would explain to them just how special sharks are. Now, you think of any wild animal, any other wild animal you can think of, whether it's a bear, a wolf, a lion, a jaguar, a hippo, a crocodile, anything. Those wild animals will not let you share their environment. They will attack you, they'll eat you, but a shark, the one animal that everyone's so afraid of, will actually let you swim with them. They'll let you share their environment with them if you treat them with respect. And so that's what makes sharks so special. They could easily kill you, but they know you're not food. And so you show them that you're not food, you don't act like food, they won't treat you like food. And so you face them head on, you stare them in the eyes, and as soon as they see you looking at them, they don't want to attack you, because one, they know you're not food. Two, they don't want to fight for their meal because they don't want to get hurt. So it's funny, we'll have sharks sneaking up behind us. We'll turn around and look at them, and it's almost like they're embarrassed. They're like, oh, I wasn't going to do anything. Oh, mate, I was just coming to say hello. So just you try and teach the kids that they're, sorry, phone's gone. Just try and teach them to see these sharks not as the media would portray them, but just as a beautiful wild animal. And it's hard to do with kids because they're not really allowed to dive, but I always tell people to go and see sharks once, and this has happened every single time I've done it, whether it's Will Smith, Mike Tyson, normal people that I take out to Mexico to go cage diving. As soon as you see the sharks and you're in the water with them and you see that they're not a threat, it changes the whole perception and the fear goes away. And every single time, the people that were most afraid get the most disappointed when the sharks aren't interested in them. The sharks usually swim away and they think, why? I want to be closer to the shark. And these are the people that were initially afraid. So it's just making the effort to shift that thought process and realize that we're not on the menu. It's just most of the time mistaken identity.
Yeah, what a great message. Your whole life could be completely different following what happened to you, but you've just embraced it, and you get that sort of message and seaspiracy and all the good things you're doing for the world. So good on you, mate. Good on you for sort of staying positive and going for it.
Thanks, bud.
It's
awesome. It's a rewarding life. Like I just, I want to have a good, happy life just like everyone else. And I think we find that happiness and fulfillment through adventure and through doing things that scare us and overcoming them. There's nothing wrong with being scared and doing something anyway. Being scared is not going to hurt you. It's just like it stops you from being the person that you're supposed to be if you let it control you.
We do the thing with our kids, and it's not diving with sharks or anything, but it's be brave for 5 seconds. Be brave, get through that first sort of emotion, get into the water if it's a cold water here or whatever we're doing. Be brave, and then quite quickly you see the smiles appearing and the accomplishment.
Yeah. That's a great practice.
We love it. Paul, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. You hold the book up. Is it out now to order worldwide and everything like that?
Yep. It's online. My buddy Geraint Jones just sent me the pictures of all the UK sites that have it, and apparently it's way overpriced for some reason. So it is available in the UK and around the world. In America, where I am at the moment, I found the easiest way to get it out there was just people just Venmo me $30 and I just sign it, personalize it, and send it out to them. So I'm just like, the book's just turned up, like I said earlier. Yeah. I literally have to sit here for the next probably 3 days signing and personalizing 400 books. So that's my day. It's going to be exciting.
Awesome. And what's next for you? Have you got any? Obviously, you've got your 30 for life and projects coming out, but anything else? Or
yeah, we got the podcast, The Dirt Down Under, with me and Julia. So I think we've just released episode 4, and it's about conservation and environmentalism, but I have a hard time remaining serious on any topic. And so it's actually a lot of fun. We spend a lot of our time laughing our asses off, even in the most serious of circumstances. So I do think it's well worth a listen. You'll have a laugh. You'll learn some stuff about our world. Then I got, more shows to shoot for Shark Week again. So just waiting to find out how Discovery Channel is going to try and kill me this year. And then, Third of Life, the book, the podcast, Shark Week. Man, what else? So much stuff. It's hard to keep track of, but it's a lot of fun.
Are you familiar with Nick Cummings, the honey badger, fellow Aussie?
Yeah, actually, I had beers with Nick in Bondi one night. He's a funny guy. He's a good guy.
I had him on the show. If you're looking for some outdoorsman and all that, he sat like you on the show, and he said his mate gave him a big, was that a knife? And he gets up, he's butt naked from the waist down. So he gets up, turns around, he's just got this bare arse on the screen. Oh, it was hilarious. He's a good guy. You guys talking about all things, his life, your life, that would be a good podcast. That would be good fun.
Yeah, it would actually. Yeah, I'll have to hit him up and see if we can work out a conservation angle to tie him into.
Yeah, good on you. Well, Paul, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, mate. Have a good one.
Thank you.